What's up, everybody, guys and gals? Welcome back to another episode of Running with Eric, and I'm excited. I have a special guest with me today, Margot. And for those of you who've read my book, The Cool Impossible, you'll know Margot from the last chapter in talking about some of our training together. Margot and I have been working together for over 10 years. She's one of the few athletes I work with here in Jackson. I think there's a little misconception out there that I only work with local athletes, and it's just the opposite. 90%, 99% of the people I work with are I'm coaching scattered throughout the world. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. But again, Margot and I have kind of worked through her Ironman days to shorter trail races and now to big mountain races. And I want to talk today about strengths and weaknesses and how there's always a way for us to get better, regardless of our ability, regardless of our age, regardless of what style of running we do. I think what I'm good at as a coach is there's always something to get better at. And that usually means kind of looking at your weaknesses and attacking your weaknesses. So I want to talk about that today. But I want to talk about Margot first. Margot just turned 52 this year. And we always joke that she's still, relative to age, she's a very elite athlete. So kind of want to, kind of go from the book of into Cool Impossible. We talked about Margot shifting gears from shorter trail races to now big mountain, and just kind of want to take us back to the last 3 years or so, maybe starting with Monte Rosa. And talk to us about Monte Rosa.
Okay.
Where is it?
So Monte
what
Rosa
distance?
is the race that Lizzie Hawker used, or actually is the trail that she used to win UTMB 5 years. I think she won it, or even more. So that was her training run, and so she developed a race there. And I did it the first year that they did the, it was a little over 100K, I think it was like 72 miles. And it was incredibly challenging. I do 100Ks, in 12, 14 hours, and I did this one in 30, and I still...
Do you remember the vertical gain on
35,000, and I think plus, and...
So 35,000 feet of climbing throughout the 100K.
And I think I was the only American to finish.
And what place were you overall?
7th woman.
7th woman overall. So then, take us to last year. That Monte Rosa race kind of set her up for Tour Giants, which is?
Well, gosh, that is 220 miles. Don't go by what they say on the thing. My statistics, it's 100,000 vertical. That took me over 5 days with 10 hours of sleep. And finished 17th woman there, and I think 2nd American woman.
Awesome. That's so awesome. And then that's leading into your goal of this year, which is?
A TDS. So I wanted to do a UTMB race. The 100-miler did not thrill me because, I don't know, it just didn't. So I picked the TDS.
And for those of you looking at UTMB versus TDS, TDS is a much more aesthetic. If you're a true mountain runner, TDS is much more difficult, much more mountains than UTMB. The UTMB is actually a faster course. So
yeah.
So I thought it would be fun to bring Margot in and kind of give you a background on what she's been doing since the book. But again, let that lead us into strengths and weaknesses and how that can always help us find ways for us to get better as we age. So 2 ways to kind of develop your strengths and weaknesses is one is look at your body type. And if you use Margot and myself as an example, I am a much more power strength oriented runner. I develop muscle very easily. I'm very well defined, and I enjoy running fast, and it's why I excel in the mountains but not so much on the road. Anytime I get resistance a la mountains, I excel. But get me on flat roads and I'm just not the runner I am in the mountains. Margot, we've really worked on her mountain running. Obviously she's a very good mountain runner, but she's just the opposite. Her weakness is when the incline kicks up and when she has to run fast on mountains. So if you look at her body type, she's tall, she's long, she's lean, she's very strong, but from a visual standpoint, her muscles aren't as defined as, say, an athlete like myself. She prefers kind of long, sustained efforts on roads, where getting into kind of the next way of detecting your weaknesses myself, I get me on a track for 200 meters, 400 meters, 100 meters. I love that. Anything under 3 minutes, I really love that, where Margot's just the opposite. She likes those 10 to 20 minute efforts, and because that's physiologically what she excels at, and from her body composition standpoint. So take those two and kind of look at yourself and say, okay, what kind of body type do I have? And then how does that relate to the style of running that I like to do? So again, as an example, I like to go short and hard. So that's my strength. What we gravitate to, or what we tend to like to do, tends to be our strength. What we don't do, or what we don't, or not as enjoyable, is typically our weakness. So be honest with yourself. Look at those two aspects within yourself and see what maybe your strengths and weaknesses are. And then the key is, today's the last day of February, and early season is the absolute best time to work on your weakness. Kind of my cardinal rule is work on your weakness early and then apply it to working on your strength later. So you're getting better at your weakness to get better at your strength. So you always want to, as the race gets closer, you always want to be working on your strength. Okay? So, hope that helps. Try it out. Leave questions bottom of the video on that, or if you have other topics we want to cover. I want to end with Margot, and I have 2 questions for her to help you. So my 2 questions to Margot is, what's one piece of advice that you have for a veteran runner that maybe is getting older, that goes with the idea that there's always something that you can get better at?
Okay, so as a veteran, stop looking at other people. Just look within yourself, and just you know, take comfort in what you can do. And it's surprising because you can do better than you think when you stop comparing yourself to some of these younger runners, and it's hard to do with all social media and stuff. So I try to focus on myself and how I'm feeling, and not necessarily worrying. I let him worry about times and efforts and stuff like that, and I just keep within.
And keep doing what she enjoys doing.
Well,
so,
yeah,
So,
that's
all right.
given.
So then let's ask the same question. What piece of advice would you give to the runner out there that's maybe a lot younger, who maybe doesn't have to take this into consideration, but still can work on strengths and weaknesses to get better? Take us back to the 25-year-old Margot.
Patience was not my forte. So when I was younger, I felt like everything had to be fast. I think you just did something on that. Everything was about speed and effort. And I didn't appreciate the whole training in the sense of the recovery days, the slow days. I hated recovery. Now as an older athlete, I love recovery. But back then, it was like, I didn't like recovery. I didn't like my slow days. I wanted everything. I thought the only way to get faster was to be fast all the time.
And that's a great point, because one, we know recovery is when we get stronger, regardless of age. Recovery is just as important as your hard workout. And secondly, like I talked in the last video, is that learning to run easy well allows you to do more.
And I think that as a younger athlete, that's probably one of the harder things to do.
Look to run a little bit faster than you do on 1 day, 2 days, and then a lot easier than you used to. So awesome. Thank you, Margot. Here's to another year. Yeah. And we're out of here. Let's go. Go. Run, 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 run. Downhill. We got 1,000 feet of descent. See ya.